AOC may finally get what's coming to her. Ladies and gentlemen, she's under federal investigation, according to the border czar, one Mr. Tom Homan. And she's under federal investigation because it is believed she is impeding law enforcement. She also, interestingly, is allegedly having people in her congressional office that are here illegally. So if she's employing illegal immigrants, migrants, illegals, and she's simultaneously out there trying to impede law enforcement by telling everybody how to avoid the feds, that kind of comes down to a bit of a problem, as my friend Benny discovered with Tom Homan. They're on his program yesterday. Let's watch it together.
Here's the article of the criminal alien staffer that AOC had on staff. Maybe you could just start here and as an explainer to me and to this audience, like, how's this even possible?
It's not possible, and I know that's being looked at. I can't comment on past that. I'm aware of it. We've asked ICE to drill in on that case. It's my information that there were actually, I can't really comment on it. We don't know if it was illegal status or not at this point. It looks like it might have been temporary status, but I can't comment on the case. It's under investigation. Under investigation.
That's the key part. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking about this. AOC herself has been quite worried about it. Remember how she went out to PBS and was pleading her case there? Oh gosh, I've been asking and asking. I can't figure out whether or not I'm going to be charged. Maybe she hasn't been charged yet, but it sounds like the woman is definitely under investigation, and rightly so.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Homan was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents.
Boom! And there you have it. Okay, so they're saying, well, they're not really your constituents. They're not here legally. And if you're actually encouraging them to evade ICE, which she was, well, then that would put you in violation of federal law. That would actually put you in the way of law enforcement trying to do its job. And that's exactly what she was doing. Remember all those little ceremonies she was giving online, the webinars, the chit-chats on Instagram or TikTok, and all her advice?
Principle number one in what you can do is that when one of these things comes to your backyard.
I just got to pause it there. When one of these things, she's referring to ICE agents, okay? She's referring to human beings that are trying to enforce federal law as things. I think that's kind of important to hear. It shows you her utter disrespect for the law.
Things comes to your backyard, you can resist. And what that happens over millions of people is that you generate enough friction that they cannot go as fast as they want to go, okay? So I'm going to give you some examples that have already been working. Let's start with immigration and ICE. When people say, what can we do? In my community, we are a heavily immigrant community. ICE raids deeply affect and disrupt our community. So
her thinking is you can actually avoid them, and she's going to walk you through how you do that. I would point out that if you do decide to not provide ICE with the proper documentation, you actually could be in a whole lot more trouble, which, by the way, is something that Tom Homan actually agrees with as well, pointing out that then you're actually really in violation of the law. Let's show you.
As far as her educating people how to evade ICE arrest, she's really educating them on how to be prosecuted, because there are statutes on the books, federal statute, when you knowingly hinder your removal, that's a crime. When you take steps to prevent your removal after being ordered removed by a federal judge, it's a crime. We have instructed ICE to start prosecuting these cases. If you don't want to open the door, and we have a final order removal, if you don't want to participate in getting travel documents from your home nation, you take steps to hinder your own removal, that it's a crime, you'd be prosecuted. So she can claim she's...
Okay, so in other words, AOC's not doing anyone any favors. She didn't do La Monica any favors, now did she, who now faces up to 17 years. She's not doing her constituents any favors. And she's certainly not doing herself any favors with all of these social posts, one after another. If you see ICE in public, make sure you verify, document, share. Tell everybody that ICE is there so that they can help you out or so that they can run for cover too. I don't know. And then, of course, she made sure to do this one en español también, porque ella no habla español. I speak Spanish. For some reason, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does not. Go figure. Go figure. But she does offer these town halls up. Yeah, town halls on how to fight ICE.
We can't rely on rules with a rule breaker.
Oh my gosh, it's hard on one's ears. she clearly is doing everything she possibly can, ladies and gentlemen, to fight the system, to fight ICE. And because of that, guess what? She is now under investigation. As for whether or not she's going to be arrested, that's what she's waiting for. Just a couple of weeks ago, a reporter asked her there on Capitol Hill, hey, AOC, what do you think? Congresswoman, can you tell us, are you under investigation by DOJ? So this is interesting. This was just the simplistic, are you under investigation? To which she said, I've been asking them, and they said nothing to me, so I don't really know. That's similar to what she was saying to PBS recently. So here's the headline. Here's the news flash. AOC, I hope you're watching. You're under investigation. Guess what? They are investigating you as we speak, AOC, because what you're doing is not okay. All right, we got some inkling of this recently because the DHS press person, Tricia McLaughlin, was talking about La Monica MacGyver, who decided to, literally throw her weight around there in Delancey, outside the Delancey Detention Center in Newark, New Jersey. And here's what she said regarding AOC and whether she might find herself arrested.
If AOC goes down there and pulls the same kind of stunt that we've seen on Friday and today, are you going to arrest her as well?
If she trespasses and if she assaults law enforcement officers, as we saw earlier, I think that's certainly on the table.
Boom. Yes, certainly on the table. Well, she hasn't assaulted a law officer yet. But again, what we have learned from Tom Homan is that indeed she is under investigation, even though she doesn't know it, right? Because again, going on to her, she's waiting on arrest. She's waiting on finding out whether or not she's under investigation. And here's the headline. AOC, you are. And you know what? Here's why. You can't do what you're doing and expect to get away with it in the new law and order environment.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman, putting out a webinar, doing a webinar to help illegals avoid, apprehension, giving tips about how to continue to remain in the country and ultimately game the system.
At what level is that impediment? Is that impediment? Is that impediment? Is that impeding our law enforcement efforts? If so, what are we going to do about it? Is she crossing the line? So maybe AOC is going to be in trouble now.
AOC is in trouble now. You better believe it, even though she doesn't think she should be.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
Okay. Well, they have indicted one La Monica MacGyver. Where are you on that? I don't see you. AOC, you kind of went silent after this woman really kind of went to bat for the cause, shall we say. Justin Red. So that is the video, of course, that we've seen many times out of Newark, New Jersey, and worth reminding ourselves of in this environment where you have one AOC actually not willing to stand up at all for La Monica MacGyver, who she said, don't go near, don't you dare touch. And so they're willing to kind of fight this fight with a lot of rhetoric. But when push comes to shove, I don't know as LaMonica's peeps are really going to be there for her. Again, AOC talks a good game, but ultimately she's running scared now and she is under investigation. And this is a big deal. It's a big deal. As LaMonica found out, she's facing 17 years in the slammer.
I think the charges are absurd. You know, it's ridiculous. I was there to do my job along with my other colleagues. We have done this before. This is our obligation to do. It's in our job description to have oversight over a facility, and the entire situation was escalated by ICE.
LaMonica, you could have made an appointment, right? That would be within the scope of the job. The scope of the job is not to actually, get out there and try and muscle your way into the facility. That's not okay. That's not your job. That's not what you're supposed to do as a member of Congress. You have to take my word for it. Let's go to a legal scholar, Andrew McCarthy, well-versed on these issues. He explained it recently on Fox.
No, they absolutely don't have the authority to go in without the approval of the executive branch. The enforcement of the federal immigration laws is a federal responsibility. Congress has oversight of it. But members of Congress who are not acting as Congress, they're acting as individuals, they don't have any more right to obstruct the operations and certainly to create situations that endanger and in some cases reportedly have resulted in assaults on federal officials. They don't have any power to do that.
Boom. Okay, so it's pretty simple. LaMonica was way out of her skis. And AOC, in insisting that people band together like LaMonica did there in Newark, New Jersey, is actually encouraging the impediment of law enforcement. And let's go back to, Constitution 101. Who has the authority in this case? It's always the federal government. And we've talked about this at length, okay? The Supremacy Clause, the Commerce Clause, the Naturalization Clause. The federal government has the authority over who is here and who is not here in this country. It is not AOC. It's not these members of Congress. You have laws on the books, okay? Laws are on the books. And so what is the federal government supposed to do? They are supposed to enforce the law on the books, as Kristi Noem so brilliantly articulated, although it's honestly not that hard.
My only question to you, I'd say a question back to you is, which laws in the United States should be enforced and which ones shouldn't? I mean, my job, here's the deal, guys. My job is not to pick and choose which laws we enforce and which ones we don't. We have laws in this country, and they matter. If you want the law changed, go to Congress. When's the last time you went to Capitol Hill and told your senator or representative to change it? That's what they need to do. This is the perfect time for Congress to make a decision on how they want people in this country to be able to have an opportunity to come here legally and to fix this. We, as law enforcement officers and as a national security department and agency, my job is to uphold the law, and that's what I will continue to do.
Exactly. Okay. You know what? This is not rocket science. There's a law. You want to change it? AOC, you're welcome to try and change it. Okay. But so long as the law is the law, you're actually now looking like you're in violation of it. Hence, the opening of an investigation into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Tom Homan confirming there is an investigation going on about that alleged illegal staffer, and that there is an investigation going on into whether or not she has in fact violated federal law, in which case she would be arrested. I mean, they're going after the West Coast, right? You see them going after Los Angeles. They're suing the state of Los Angeles. That's new out today too. And they're looking to round everybody up and put them down in Florida into the detention center that has become known as Alligator Alcatraz. Yeah, it's quite a name. The president was talking about it a little bit earlier today as he began his trip down to Alligator Alcatraz, and it made the point that they need some kind of system to work through. You got all this red tape, and even though they've been proven right at even the Supreme Court level, right, in terms of the deportations that are now being allowed and the canceling of visas for people, 530 some odd thousand of them that were brought here from Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba under the Biden administration. They're canceling those visas, but what do you do with them at that point? And that's become a bit of a challenge. So Ron DeSantis is offering up some answers and a little bit less bureaucracy.
this is we're offering up our National Guard and other folks in Florida to be deputized to be immigration judges. We're working with the Department of Justice for the approvals. I'm sure Pam will approve. But then I'll have a National Guard judge advocate here. Someone has a notice to appear. Biden would tell them to come back in 3 years and appear. Now you'll be able to appear in like a day or two, so they're not going to be detained, hopefully, for all that long. We'll have people here in this facility that can make, it's a bureaucracy. The president's got to deal with the bureaucracy. Now, that Supreme Court ruling was good because that's going to allow him to be able to exercise Article 2 the way founders intended, but you still have bureaucracy. So we want to cut through that so that we have an efficient operation between Florida and DHS to get the removal of these illegals done.
Boom. All right. So they mean business. And, alligators are quite an image, let me just say. As someone who grew up in the Northeast, I have a special fear for those things. So that takes on a whole new meaning. But the point being that they want to be able to expedite some of these people out of the country. And in terms of some of the national security concerns, et cetera, their hope is that they'll be able to do this in a more efficient kind of fashion. So what does AOC do with all of this? Well, she's trying to twist it into somehow that the GOP is totally anti-immigrant. Here's my newsflash for her. You know what? They're not anti-immigrant. The party's not anti-immigrant. The party is pro-legal immigration. So that means some kind of system has to be developed so that you know who the heck is in the country. Don't try and tar and feather them with this whole idea that they're completely anti-immigrant. I think that's insanely unfair. But you guys have gone the opposite direction. We're all about open borders, are you not?
About how this is about illegal versus legal immigration. They are attacking legal status and removing legal status. The Republican majority is anti-legal immigration in the United States. And I want to make that very clear, and I yield back.
Woo! Okay. You gotta ask yourself, why is all this happening right now? I mean, I know it's Trump and everything, right? We know that Trump, ever since he went down the escalator and said, there's people that we shouldn't have in this country, here in this country, he has become a lightning rod for this. And so they want to go after him. And in going after him, they go after this issue. But they kind of make themselves look foolish in the process. I mean, Jasmine Crockett, you need look no further than the representative from Texas one, Jasmine Crockett, making some lousy remarks, trying to sell her constituency on why you need open borders.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation. I know that's right.
Wow. So quite a way to phrase it. Yeah, it's quite a sales pitch. But you, again, need to ask, why is this all happening right now? Why has the left gotten so extreme? Why are they trying to argue for open borders? And it brings you back to this article earlier in the year. New York moves to allow 800,000 non-citizens to vote in local elections. New York City will become the largest municipality in the country to allow legal residents to vote if the election is approved as expected in December. Okay, so that's a pretty fascinating headline. And for everybody who's like, oh no, there's no way that would actually happen. Well, I mean, they were trying. If the appellate court hadn't struck it down, you would have had 800,000 non-citizens who were quote unquote legally here, right? Just think about the 532,000 that Biden imported from the likes of Nicaragua, Haiti, Cuba, and Venezuela. Think about that. Okay, so I guess you sort of legally are here because you've been given this pass, which by the way, Donald Trump just took away. And suddenly you're voting in elections. You wonder how this works, right? It's just math at the end of the day, unfortunately, but by the way, this is a big part of why Donald Trump won. Don't kid yourself, Dems. People aren't really into this. And let me go back to what the actual rules are. The actual rules are in terms of asylum, et cetera, and we got real rules on the book. 8 U.S.C. 1158 aligns with the 1951 Refugee Convention and the 1967 Protocol. To qualify for asylum, the applicant must prove two things, okay? One, persecution of well-founded fear of persecution, must have suffered persecution or have had a genuine and responsible fear of future persecution, and be with protected grounds. So you got to meet both of these criteria. So one, you have to be fearful, right, of your life and the situation there, but it can't just be because it's a terrible place. I mean, there's plenty of terrible places out there. It can't be. It actually has to be on these protected grounds. 1, race. 2, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So this is pretty narrowly defined, and yet they wanted to change it into something entirely different. Why, you ask? Why? And look, I gotta, I hate to be so critical, shall we say, but you had 800,000 people that had a shot at voting in local elections that were not actually citizens of the United States. Like, what the heck is that about? And it's all being orchestrated by the same people who are on the Fight the Oligarchy tour. Fight the Oligarchy tour. In other words, they want handouts for everybody. They want open borders, and they want them to have everything that they could possibly want and need. I'm thinking about the commie that wants to come into New York as mayor. And then they have the audacity to get out there and ride around on a private jet. Here is AOC with her Fight the Oligarchy tour. And look at that. What do you know? Stepping out of none other than a private plane. Like, it's amazing how that happens. You're out there, fighting the oligarchy. By the way, she's getting caught in a total lie. We talked about this yesterday because she apparently likes to say that she's a girl from the Bronx, but turns out she's kind of from a Tony suburb. Very different place. Wow. Okay. Whatever. You know where this is going, okay? So they want to let them eat cake. Bring them all in. We're going to give them something. We're going to control the money. We're going to control the power.